If you wipe out an insect's population, insects can recover really quickly. But if you wipe out the species, then you're in trouble. Two of the big ones that are both just very infamous in the news and so forth, and also two of the big things that we do that hurt insects the most, are pesticides and habitat loss or habitat change. So when you're an entomologist, you know that pesticides aren't quite as bad as sometimes you hear in the news and so forth, but they definitely can be used in ways that are bad and used too much, and they can cause a lot of insect deaths. But the one that we really focus on is habitat loss and habitat change. A lot of the insects that evolve in an area depend on native plants. And when you take a natural area and turn it into corn or grass or concrete, you have made that insect species extinct in that spot. It can't come back ever again. If you accidentally mess up with pesticides right on that spot, the pesticides eventually go away and the bugs can come back, as long as you didn't totally make the bug extinct. But when you take big areas and turn them into concrete, turn them into agriculture, you can easily cause insects to go extinct. And then why do we care about whether insects go extinct or not? We said it earlier when we're talking about the water insects.
The food chain.
They're food for other creatures. Insects we consider them the third most important part of the food chain. What's the number one most important part of the food chain on Earth? Sun. Second most important part is plants. Third most important part is insects. So when the insects start losing species, losing diversity, losing population numbers, big problems. Now we're moving on to interpretation, which is what do insects sort of mean for your all's jobs. So there's lots of opportunities for insect interpretation. For one thing, and we mentioned this earlier, insects, whatever ecological role you can think of, there's probably an insect close to you that's doing it. Scavenger, predator, herbivore, at least those three. Parasites. Just right out, I can see weeds beyond this building that they're insects doing those things right now. It's like the lions on the savannah in this much space, and you can observe it almost any time. Underwater in the winter, and on land in the other times of the year. So some specific places that are really good to go to interpret insects. Rotten log. So whenever I want to show kids some bugs really quickly, a rotten log is a great place to run to. Go into that log and start ripping it up. You'll see a whole ecosystem there. Centipede. Do you remember what we said centipedes do ecologically a minute ago?
Predators.
All predators. If you see a centipede, you know it's a predator. This is a beetle larva or a beetle pupa up here. That is prey. It is the defenseless pupa. So you'll see those in there. Of course, spiders are predators. This is a sac spider. They're very common underneath bark. And then you've got these guys. Does anybody know what these are? Termites. Termites, which is their own order, by the way. All the termites go together in their own order. What does a termite represent in a rotten log? They actually represent at least two things, sort of. Detritivore, and then they're also prey. But detritivore is the thing that's so important about them. They're turning that decaying log back into nutrients. So you can observe, and a lot of times these four creatures will be as close together as you see right there. The centipede will be resting in between killing things, sitting there. So is the spider. Beetle pupa hasn't been found by the centipede yet, and there's too many termites for the centipede to wipe all of them out. So they're still there too. So you can see all this stuff right there, and it's a whole ecosystem. And once you get used to it, once you get used to ripping open logs, you see the same kinds of creatures over and over again. What would you call this habitat? Meadow. Yeah, meadow or prairie. There's some right out here. Meadow's a great place to interpret insects. There's all kinds of stuff going on there. Obviously, all the butterflies are going to be in there, and their caterpillars. We got top predators like mantid. We've got sort of intermediate predators. Like, does anybody know what this one is? It's a crab spider. Yes, that's right. So it's a spider. It's a crab spider, very common in meadows, and these are all Kentucky creatures. So that white crab spider lives here. Does anybody know what this one is? It's upside down.
Wheel bug?
It is related to a wheel bug. It's a type of assassin bug, and so it's got these crazy orange and white colors and black stripes, and those live right out. There's some probably around us right now. Just common creatures that you can observe. I kind of think of going into a meadow almost like going snorkeling. Think about when that last time you were snorkeling, or if you've ever been snorkeling, you're looking up close and you're seeing these creatures going around on coral or whatever. It's almost the same thing in a meadow. You get down there, you're kind of on their level, and they're just doing all these things around you. And a lot of times they don't even notice that you're there. So you can kind of go through and see all this diversity. In a meadow like just the one right outside this building, probably at least 1,000 species of insects hanging out in there right now. It'd take a while to find and identify them all, but there's a whole bunch. So meadow is a good one. What do you think what ecosystem or habitat this would represent? Basement, yeah, indoors. So here's another winter opportunity. If you're interpreting with some kids and you're stuck inside, maybe not in this building because they probably do some pest control in here and that kind of thing, but if you were in my building where I work at Ag North, you can find these things. You have predators. You've got a house spider. Does anybody know what that one is? House centipede. And what's this one? Wood lice or roly-poly. That's exactly right. Does anybody know what this one is? Cockroach. Okay, here's a quiz. Does anybody remember what class that one belongs to? Up in the upper right corner. Arachnida. But before you're an arachnid, you have to be which phylum? Does anybody remember? Arthropod. What about that one, upper right corner? Chilopoda, which is the centipede class. That's right. Does anybody remember which one this one belongs to? Crustacea. If you turn over a roly-poly, this is always a good opportunity for interpretation. Turn over a roly-poly, count their legs. They have 14 legs. It's way too many for an insect. So that's a good way to show that that's a crustacean. And then of course we've got our cockroach here. That is class, which one? Insecta. And then once you learn your orders, cockroaches all go in their own order. Pretty easy. And the way we identify cockroaches is pretty easy too. For one thing, they're flat. And their heads are mostly concealed by their thorax. This one's been pushed down a little bit, stretched out, but their heads are like this to make them even flatter for running under things. So that's how we identify cockroaches. Pretty easy. But that's indoors. So you can find all these creatures usually, and definitely in my house in Lexington, you can find all these creatures inside pretty quickly. Once again, a whole ecosystem. The tridivore, sort of a herbivore to tridivore with your cockroach, and then predators up there. So that's for wintertime.
So is the house centipede eating?
It eats it's pretty much the top predator, unless you have
a spider?
Yes, unless you have maybe a raccoon in your house also, or a bird or something. That top predator is a lot of times the house centipede. They get this big.
Is it dangerous for us to touch?
No, if you touch them, what will happen is you will touch its leg and then it'll be over there in about 2 seconds.
Yeah.
They are very fast. You can watch people on the internet. There's some specific guy that does this. He takes different creatures and tries to get them to bite him. But with the house centipede, you can poke at it and trap it, and they just don't seem to bite people. They do have venom. They do have venomous teeth. All centipedes do, but they don't seem to bite. You'll get a lot of questions about dangerous insects and spiders in Kentucky. The good news about this is that there's not too many that you have to learn. Honeybee up there, she represents all of the stinging insects. So bees, hornets, wasps, yellow jackets can all sting. Those are a dangerous insect. And then stinging caterpillars, there are a few of those. I don't even know all of the ones that can sting. My rule of thumb is if it's a caterpillar and I don't know exactly what it is, I don't touch it. Because some caterpillars can sting. Not very dangerous, but definitely unpleasant. It feels like stinging nettle if you've ever been in that. We have lots of kinds of spiders in Kentucky. The only one, when I'm outside with my kids, the only one I have any concern about is black widow. So if you learn black widow, don't worry about any of the other ones. You might say brown recluse. Brown recluse doesn't really live outside in Kentucky. It's more of an inside creature, which is unsettling in its own way. Brown recluse are also not as dangerous as you hear about on the internet and so forth. But black widow really does make you sick if you get bitten by it. It makes you pretty nasty.
Not very aggressive.
No. Black widow is not aggressive. If you see one, I tell kids, if you see one, take a picture of it, take a video of it, sit there and look at it all you want. Just don't touch it. So black widow is a good one to know about. It's also good to know that they're extremely common. Black widows are all over the place. And then ticks can be bad. We'll talk about those in a second. We do have one kind of scorpion in the state. Has anybody ever seen it before?
Yes.
Cool.
Stroller once.
Oh.
And I thought he was lying. He's like, there's a scorpion. I was like, yeah, right.
And it was like, is that correct? It was a scorpion.
Yeah.
Right? I was always wondering.
Yeah, we have one scorpion. It's about this big. It's brown. It's not very dangerous. But if you're in an area which is more or less southeast United States or southeast Kentucky, they're common down there. Which of these, by the way, would you say causes the most injuries in Kentucky out of those 5 groups up there?
Bees.
It's probably it's definitely one of those 2. The bees probably cause more like incidents because they sting a lot of people. The ticks give you diseases, which is really bad. Luckily the tick diseases, and if there's any real wood in here, tick diseases in Kentucky are not really bad yet. You can get Lyme disease possibly. You can get Rocky Mountain spotted fever possibly, but it's unlikely. So, I've got a section in the document about tick safety. You need to know tick safety. It's important. And then, but bees are serious business because you can be allergic to bees and you can die from that. So if there's people that you're with, that you're interpreting with, and they say, hey, I'm allergic to bees, take that seriously. Make sure that they have what they need, or EpiPens or whatever they need for that, before they go venture out into the wilderness. But if you know those, there's really not too many other dangerous bugs. Mosquitoes are, they can sometimes give people diseases. Mosquito diseases are rare in Kentucky. But most of our other insects, not dangerous. And I think that's pretty much it. Just a little bit about some things that you can do as a naturalist. For one thing, you can do the aquatic investigations, which we just showed you. That is something that I do so many times because it's such a good way to bring lots of topics together and to show what insects are doing out there. You can also, if you're working with a natural area, you can install butterfly gardens. And this place obviously does a good job of that. They take instead of leaving a lot of lawn space, like a lot of visitor centers at nature areas have mowed lawns in the front. Why have that when you can have a meadow or a butterfly garden instead? So if you're working with a natural area, you can maybe help them install a monarch way station, which is an easy kind of butterfly garden to make. This place, Monarch Watch, is a place that will help you make your monarch way station. And you can also create insect displays. You can create boxes of pinned insects or boxes of aquatic insects that could be used for years and years by a natural area. Okay, so that's all of the PowerPoint kind of info stuff. So I'll turn you loose. Thank you for being